bring it in with me, Jarod Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Rod, I'm gonna tell you a 20-second story to start our show to tell you how I am. So over almost 21 years ago, a doctor told my wife baby A is a boy. And I immediately thought, oh, please let baby B be a girl. I don't know why I thought that. I never really thought about it much. It turns out baby B was a girl. Last year, we sent baby B to college and couldn't really do anything at the school because of the pandemic. And today there's a parents' weekend starting tonight. And my wife and I get to drive up and hang out with her and her sorority sisters and her roommates. And the sorority's got a bunch of things planned. We'll be very safe. I cannot wait to go. So as soon as we're done here, my wife and I are taking the dog to a little hotel, and we're going to go just be parents for our girl away in college. We're a year late in doing it, but I can't wait.
Look at that. Doggy hotel number one, which is fantastic. And then two, like you have the, as a dad, I'm sure you have these moments, right? So you're going to see her at college campus. She's a sophomore now. Do the things happen in your brain where you're a photo bang? You're like, oh, remember when she was one and we did this thing and that, right? Do those things happen all the time when you're with her?
Well, especially because of things like Facebook and Google. I'm always reminded of these pictures of all of her ice cream dates, and I went to a million dance practices. Yeah. I mean, they're not always on your mind. You just see those pics and remember. But Judy will tell you, as a parent of younger kids, like you can't wait for the day where they're in college and you get a glimpse of their world on their turf with their friends. And we didn't get to do it. Now her roommates came to visit us last year over the break. We had to sit outside the whole time. It was December of last year. This is going to be us visiting her. We've never been inside the sorority house. There's all sorts of rules about vaccination, whatever. Not in Florida, but for the sorority, I'm happy to say. And just hearing my 20-year-old daughter, her 20-year-old friends making plans, how do we stay safe and whatever, because they don't worry about shit when they're on their own. They've all had COVID and are vaccinated. With parents, you have to be a little more delicate, but yeah, we just can't wait. And I did pack a flask of tequila because you never got to be prepared, Jarod. You got to be prepared. So
you're right.
Are always prepared. We always look ahead.
Coaches and Boy Scouts, always be prepared, right? So, Coach, preseason's here. We've had quite a number of games. This is already Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Was it? God, 5 days already into preseason. Some teams have played 2-3 games already. And I wanted to start the show off going with two things that so one from each of us that we like that we've seen so far in preseason. So you kick it off. What's one thing you've seen in preseason that you liked?
Okay, don't get mad at me because I'm going to say two. But the one thing to answer your question is, this is going to sound so dumb probably. I like that all the teams are sitting on one bench. Like it's looking more normal than certainly the last 2 seasons, really 1.5 seasons. But they're all sitting. These gigantic men kind of scrunched together a little bit. Maybe the bench will look a little bit different. They might have more room, but they're all in one row. And so I really like that. I'm waiting for when coaches will dress up. I don't know when that's going to be, if it's ever going to be. I like our coaches wearing suits or jackets, no tie is fine. I don't know if they're going to do that. The other thing I'll just say is I like watching the rookies play great. And I just giggle all the time that their fans think that, oh, he's going to be the answer this year.
And you're like no, they won't.
No, he's not. That's his name, Luka Doncic. It's hard to be a good player in this league. It's a great league. These players are so good. And no one cares in the preseason. So rookies, James Bouknight is killing it. And Murphy, who's playing great in New Orleans. I love it. But the curveballs are coming. Like right now, it's just slow fastballs, not even movement fastballs. And they're hitting out of the park. But the curveballs are coming. The change of speeds are coming.
The crossboard analogy, first of all, is fantastic. It's we're in the middle of playoff baseball, so I see where you're going there. And it's so true, though, right? Spring training. All right, I'm not busting out the 4-seamer. I'm not doing the splitty. It's like all the just straight down the pike. Oh my God, this guy hit 700 in spring training. He's ready for the show. And it's like, yeah, probably not. Probably not.
What do you like best so far?
Well, what I like best is I'm getting nitty gritty specific.
Oh.
We're going to Memphis. We're going to my guy Triple J because, Coach, one of the things that was his biggest flaw, besides being healthy all season, and that's a big thing. He's got to be healthy for him to have a good season. Defensively, where we thought he could be great, I felt like in his first few years in the league, he's always been not in the right position, guarding wise, too much upright and fouling way too much, biting on pump fakes, all these things that I'm like, what are you doing? But he's a rookie. Rookies do that. In these 2 preseason games, Coach, I'm like, oh my God, look at you. You're in the right position. You're riding on and moving your hips and your crunch. I'm like, this is amazing. So if he's able to be healthy this year, I think we're going to see a breakout season. And no, we both predicted that. He was also the number one player picked by the GMs in their annual survey to have a breakout season.
Really?
He was. Wow. So listen, because we already know he can score, he can shoot and do all those things. Listen, if he's playing well defensively and not fouling out, and because he had the highest foul rate as a rookie per minute, I was like, dude, literally he walked on the floor with 2 fouls before the ball even got tipped off. But he's cutting those out, which is good because he needs to be able to be on the floor and play defense. If he can ascend to the level we think, and Ja Morant's doing his thing, that's the cornerstone of a nice franchise for years to come.
No, I mean, you're being kind. No, contender. If Ja Morant is incredible now, he's got to get better on defense and he's got to learn to shoot. And Ja Morant has some holes in his game that have to get better. I also think he's the most exciting player in the league, as I wrote about yesterday. I think he's the most exciting guy. And he looks like every man. He's a little guy compared to Zion or whatever. But yeah, if Jaren Jackson Jr. if he can make the leap, maybe we said this before, if he can make the leap Ayton made, where the game slows down and he stops playing like a puppy and begins to control the paint. He's got Steven Adams to do some dirty work for him, and then makes progress offensively the way he should. He's a very skilled player. The Grizzlies are suddenly thinking, all right, maybe we'll get past a round this year. Maybe not. The West is still really good, but we're going to go ahead and make some other moves now. And starting next season, not this season, but next season, we think we can be in the Final Four.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what you want, right? Especially when you're a team like Memphis, where, you're not a free agency destination. So you got to build, draft right, and get homegrown guys and build. And if they can do that, I'm liking what I'm seeing. So hopefully that'll continue. Moving on to some interesting news that came up out of the news yesterday. Coach, 18 ex-NBA players were arrested and charged in a health care fraud scheme. And, they avoided, they eventually stole $4 million out of a healthcare fund that was, tied around former players and their pensions and benefits they get as part of, being a league employee for however many years. I thought the reactions around all of this was very interesting, Coach. And the reason why I say interesting is because things like this literally happen daily. Like something like this is happening right now as we're doing this show. And I thought the response from Twitter and the various people, and again, why this is sensational is because of some of the names caught up in it. Big Baby Davis and Tony Allen, and right, like it's like, oh, when everybody's making their jokes, like, of course I can see that guy doing it, whatever. And my thing is like, look, we need to be very clear about what this is, and here's how I want to look at it. The part that gets me annoyed is, and it's something that you and I talk about all the time, Coach, the NBA is a fraternity. And these guys are part of an elite group that only so many of them so many people in the world count themselves lucky to be a part of. I'm not mad that they took money from the NBA or whatever. The NBA is a multi-billion-dollar organization. I don't care. To your fellow players in that fraternity, that you would do that to them. That's the part that's got me like, hey man, this is the brotherhood. That ain't cool. Okay. So that's one way I'm looking at it. The other way I'm looking at it is, if you are more outraged by this and the $4 million theft than you are at the fact that Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, every other billionaire in the world steals money from us, like out of our pockets every day, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I was telling you before the show, when Henry didn't know about it, I told him. And when I first saw the news, my mind went to some big number. And I'm not suggesting $4 million isn't legit and a felony and all of that. Although I don't know if it's 4. I saw another, Judy just posted a thing, it said 2.5 million. I don't know what the real number is with 18 people. Yeah, it's a felony, but we got billionaires racing in space. I'm not paying taxes while they're racing in space. It'd be different if they were paying 50%, whatever the highest rate is. Every 4 years it changes, whatever. But whatever it is, if they were paying that and still want to race in space, I would call them psychopaths. But they're not criminals. But we know they're not paying any taxes compared to what they should be. And so, of course, you're right regarding this kind of fraud happens all the time. I think you make a great point, Jarod, about to their fellow man. And it's not just about stealing from them. It just brings darkness to what should be a very light. To make the NBA, you're one of the best people in the world. And one of the best players, and you want to be always thought of that way. And it's like I tell my kids all the time: if you ever get in trouble, that makes me look bad. Like the NBA is that fraternity. And so when Bill Musselman or who was a coach, Eric Musselman, got a DUI, and a few other guys got DUIs, well, that makes the league look bad too. All of that should be a factor. And here's really the most important point. I see this the same way as I see a DUI. When you're in that league, you can afford an Uber. Now you can afford a driver, to be clear. You can have a professional driver drive you year round. But if you don't want to spend that money, then you always have an Uber. And when you choose not to do that for whatever reason, you're making all of the other people in the NBA look a little worse. It's the same thing here. Some of those players, Jamario Moon, I don't know how much money he made. He was in the league for a few years, but some of those guys made some real money. You didn't need to do what you did, but we're talking about a tiny percentage, right? How many players since the oldest guy on that group first entered the league? We've had a couple thousand players. So we're looking at 18. Is that right?
Yeah, 18.
Okay. Come on. And I don't know how many of them really are guilty. We'll see. And I think some of them have paid their money back. Yeah, I don't love this. I mean, it's all part of the culture. Tearing down the celebrities. As I told you, same thing with people who cheated to get into college. The fact that they were Hollywood actresses made it a big deal. But that shit's happening all the time, whether they're famous or not. Yeah, I didn't pay attention to how the news media reacted. But when you pointed out to me, I was disappointed too.
Yeah, it's just, and Greg brought us something interesting in the chat here. People get angry about crimes they can comprehend, right? It just seems simple. Look, they stole $4 million and they weren't supposed to steal it from. Again, I encourage you to just pay attention to what happens in the world with, these guys who get lauded. Again, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk racing in space and these other clowns and what they're able to do with their massive amounts of wealth, right? As you mentioned, Coach, they pay zero income tax. Zero, because none of those people get W-2s. They don't get checks from anywhere. Everything they do is off of their massive stockpile of investment, right? And then they go to their best friends who own banks, get them to loan them money at below interest rates, 1% to 2%. And guess what? That money just stays among the elite. And the stuff that it should go towards, infrastructure, which helps everybody, they pay none of that. That's the real crime going on here.
I'm with you, Jarod, 100%.
Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of fun. But before we have our little fun with this, we are going to show a little bit of a video here. Everyone knows this is the 75th year of the NBA. So they're going to do NBA at 75. And here's a cool video they have going on. Go ahead, Judy.
Come on, hop on.
Good morning.
It's the NBA 75th. All right, guys. We're getting ready to take a stroll down memory lane. Don't get left behind. It's all about the brotherhood here.
Good morning, neighbor. Top of the morning.
But also,
this is my house.
claiming what's rightfully yours.
This is my house.
Hey, seatbelts on, seatbelts.
Hey, Spider!
What's up, Russ? Take notes, kids. Flyers dressed in the NBA. Around here, it's never too late to learn a new trick.
What you want to do is get it off your fingertips.
From the sky hook
Gracias, Thorpe.
all the way to the alley-oop.
Oh, throw it down, big man. Good pass, bro.
That was an instant classic.
All right, you can stop it, Judy. Guys, it goes on for about 2:48, but the NBA is, among the better leagues at really leaning into its history. And the guys who play in the league, they're so well-versed in the ones that came before them. And we saw, just in that minute clip, we saw some real history there with the Big L and Oscar Robertson, Kareem, Magic Bird, Bill Walton. It was incredible. And it goes on. And so this is the 75th year of the NBA in existence. And they're going to unveil the top 75 players in NBA history, like they did 25 years ago for the top 50. And they did that little halftime celebration at the All-Star game. And, all the guys had the 50 leather jacket pulled out. It was really cool. They're going to do that again this year. And so now we're going to have to add 25 people to the list. And so I talked to Coach and I said, we should add 25 to the list. So it would be everyone who entered the league from 1996 to the present day. Now, as you guys know with lists, man, this stuff is hard. Like, it's just because there's so many good dudes. And how do you keep some people off and leave others off? It's like, I don't know. You just do what you can. And there were some omissions from the first 50 that we thought, and so I know, Coach, you did a little bit of that. I went back and was like, all right, I got to put this guy on because I don't know why he's not on this list. So anyway, we'll each go through 25. We'll do it in 5 people increments. So why don't you kick us off, Coach, and go with 5 people from your list?
All right. These are pretty basic. I've got Kobe, Harden, Curry, LeBron, and Wade.
Okay, so you went Kobe, Harden, LeBron, Wade. All right, those guys are, of course, all on my list.
Right.
All right, so Kobe, as you mentioned, Tim Duncan, Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James.
Okay, you said LeBron. Yeah, so I got all those too. All right. I've got Westbrook, Nash, Dirk, Manu, and Tony Parker.
Ooh, and here's the first time we have some separation, right? So, of course, I have Westbrook. Of course, I have Nash. I didn't go with the Spurs duo, and it was hard. I'm sitting there going, shit. And when I look at it, it's not enough all NBA selections. It's like all those things. And I'm like, that at some point I have to start figuring out how I'm going to do it. And it was the all NBAs. So here we go with my next group of 5. Dirk, as you mentioned, Dwayne Wade, Steph Curry, Steve Nash, Chris Paul.
All right. Yeah, I got all those. Did you say Giannis?
I didn't say Giannis yet, but he's on my list.
Okay. I've got Giannis, Iverson, Dwight Howard, Kawhi, and you're going to not like this probably, but I got Jokic.
Wow, already.
Because he had one of the greatest seasons ever in it when a league is loaded with talent. He was by far the best player. So he was very, very good the 2 years before that too, and then the bubble year. But yeah, I mean, he's you could argue that he hasn't done enough. I wouldn't argue with you, Jarod, but he's going to. The guy is going to be. He's got to be on the list because he's going to be on the list, if that makes any sense.
Yes. So Jokic didn't make it for me only because he hasn't done enough yet. I agree with you. He will do it. But again, I had to start separating by you got to have a certain number of things. All right. So my next 5, Kawhi, Giannis, James Harden, Jason Kidd, Dwight Howard.
I did not put Kidd is on. I have a list of 9
Maybes.
guys that didn't make it. 9 almost made it, and he's on there. All right. I think my most controversial one is I've got AD, I've got Draymond, I've got Powell.
Wow.
I've got Dame, and I think my most controversial is Rudy Gobert.
Wow.
If you have Dwight Howard, you have to have Rudy Gobert. He has 3 Defensive Player of the Years too.
I can't
and it's one
disagree
of the
with
best
you.
players in the league.
I can't disagree with you there. All right, here's so now the bottom of the list is where we start getting into differences.
I got a bunch more.
So Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, Allen Iverson.
Yeah, I got Iverson on there. So you just went through my almost made it. Let me go through all of them. Ready? I got Derrick Rose almost made it. He would have had he not been hurt, right? I think. I got Vince Carter, didn't make it.
Yeah, Vince didn't make mine either.
Jason Kidd, we talked about. Here's one that came pretty damn close. I may be wrong. Ben Wallace.
Ooh, yeah, Ben didn't make even three defensive players a year. 4.
Yeah, so I got Gobert and Dwight.
Gotta have him.
Such an offensive liability. T-Mac, I think I screwed up. I think I should have T-Mac. I don't know who I would have dropped. Grant. I have Grant Hill on there. So maybe T-Mac over Grant Hill. And then I got Ray Allen and Paul Pierce next in line. And then the 2, I'm surprised you didn't put this guy on here. Did you put Carmelo on there?
So my next 5. He's coming up in my next 5.
5 more. I'm sorry. I didn't like it. Okay, go ahead. Because we had a bunch the same. All right, go on.
All right. These are my last 5. And again, I cheated here because I went back to, I was like, how are these guys on it? They missed it from the first time. So I pulled them in. Carmelo's on there. Dominique. I was like, how is Neek not on? He was top 5 at MVP voting like 5 times.
How was he not on it? Yeah.
It just at the time he wasn't. Listen, I put Gary Payton on. The glove was
he's
excellent.
on my almost list.
Dennis Rodman, for take away all the off-court whatever. This dude was a nightmare, like an actual nightmare on the basketball floor.
He's great.
And then Tracy McGrady. So that's my final 5.
Yeah, I mean, I've got. There's one name we haven't mentioned of all the names that I'm not on either list. My almost made it and my made it list. Mari Stoudemire was really fucking good on some amazing teams.
He was good.
I didn't put him in there. I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame. Carmelo is the one name where it's
tough.
I mean, he made some All-NBA 3rd team. I don't know if he ever made a 2nd team. He might have. I don't remember if he made a 2nd team or not, but there's just a whole bunch of great players. All some of them are super easy. The Spurs guys, I would argue on Manu and Tony's behalf because there is no Tim Duncan without them. They don't win
True.
5.
True.
The willingness, and we're going to get to Kyrie later on, and Manu's a great example, the willingness of clearly one of the best players of all time, whether he's top 25, top 50, pick the number, of Manu Ginobili willing to come off the bench, happily, joyfully doing so, and winning because of it. And, I mean, Tony Parker, I think at least twice, led the league in points in the paint.
Yeah, as a little guy. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that possible? And this is at a time when you basically could form a dude in the nose and maybe they call a foul, right? And this skinny little fucking Frenchman led the league in scoring the paint twice. Like, come on. That is, and won 5 rings, I believe, or maybe he won 4. He might have won 4.
He won 4.
Right?
Yeah, I think he won 4. Yeah.
Because he didn't win the first one.
He didn't win the first one. He wasn't there. Yeah.
So Manu won 4 also?
Yep.
Yeah. And they were the top 3 players on their team.
Tim,
of course, was the best player.
They were. Devin put in that Melo made All-NBA second team twice, actually.
Right.
So, when you're doing these lists, they're so hard. And it's funny, we talk about Kareem, coach, who, of course, was on the first group of 50, obviously. Cap could easily be your number 1 choice on any list.
He's the captain of the team.
Exactly. He put out in his Substack, the idea is like, oh, we talk about GOATs all the time. And if you know Kareem and heard him talk about this, it's a conversation he actually doesn't like having. Because his point is like, it's hard. You can't compare eras, right? It's just very, very difficult to do that. And what matters most, being the best team guy, the guy who scored the most, and again, what about your eras, right? Where scoring was down in that Ben Wallace era, where the pace of play was like molasses. And those finals games were 77 to 68 final scores. That ain't looking great on the old, this game's about getting buckets thing, right? It's just, it looks a whole lot different. So it's tough to compare. So for me, again, with criteria, I just started looking at, all right, you got a bunch of all NBAs. You are, in Ray Allen's case, I mean, the record's going to be broken, but the all-time 3-point leader in NBA history. Paul Pierce is interesting, but that finals run he went on with the Celtics. I mean, he went up toe-to-toe with Kobe and outplayed him in that final series. That's why they won. Those things got to count for something. What they count for, I don't know. They count for something, right? And it's just, and also for other players, have you ever been considered the best, right? And it's like a lot of these guys on this list, at some point in their career, you can make an argument. Oh, this is the best point guard in the league. This is the best whatever in the league. So, it's.
Did you have Dame on your list?
I did.
Yeah, he needed to be.
I did.
He's on mine.
He with Curry.
Yeah.
He with Curry and Harden have changed the geometry and the way that guards play basketball, right? Small guys, right? Harden's 6'4", so anybody 6'4" and under, how they play basketball. It is, I like what Caleb said there. Henry's going to give his top 25. It'll be the entire rosters of the Trailblazers.
It's like the bizarro Bill Simmons.
Exactly.
Blazers, yeah.
Exactly. And I'm going to agree with you, Caleb. Seeing Kareem in that UCLA jacket was very cool. Kareem is a UCLA Bruin also, that's just one of my favorite things, is that squad with John Wooden and all the John Woodenisms. And I'm sure as a coach, you probably took some Woodenisms and applied them into your conversations with athletes.
Well, of course. And the first book I remember reading about basketball that was from a star was Giant Steps, was Kareem's first book, which I read many, 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 many times. And he has so many great anecdotes. It's really quite impressive. Just his resume is so amazing. But this is a guy that I think we still don't appreciate him as a man, like we should. And he's got scars. The way white America treated Black America and Black athletes has to have a list of scars. And yet, I mean, I want him to be he deserves a Presidential Medal of Freedom. If we're giving one to fucking Rush Limbaugh, how does Kareem not have one?
I think Kareem does have one. I'm pretty sure he has one.
I feel so much better, Devin.
I'm pretty sure he has one. I'm pretty sure he has one.
He just represents everything so great when he talks about GOAT and all of that. The game was so different then, of course, but that dude's game transfers. No problem at all. And
It's a tight game. We need a bucket, coach. I know what play we're going to go to. Kareem in the post, baby.
and he can pass. Like, if you want a double, fine. He saw doubles too. Now, you can shade and all of that, but it wouldn't really matter. I mean, he was such an athlete that a lot of these guys in those days, had we asked them to do more, they could have. We didn't. You know, as coaches, I was one of them in the 80s. I didn't ask my big guys. Well, I did one. I had one big guy who was, you know, that I told you before, was 6'6", 300. And in the offseason, we taught him how to be a guard. So when he went to the Final Four as a sophomore in college, it wasn't a big surprise as starting center. And he led the SEC in scoring as a senior and made threes. It wasn't such a big surprise because I had trained him as such. What I failed to do was train all my bigs that way. I should have helped all of them play the game more. But guys like Kareem, those guys, they could do everything. It's a fun list. I think your point on Dominique is great. He's still my all-time best in-game dunker.
Oh, I mean, nasty in-game dunker.
He did a 360 in college. Georgia played at Florida, and I listened to the game on the radio. I wasn't in college yet. I might have been right before I went. And the announcers weren't really sure what they saw. Like because he would 360 and then break the rim kind of thing. Yeah, his game against Bird. I watched live. Yeah, where he couldn't be guarded. I don't remember what he scored. It was a ton. But Bird had in the 60s. That was the game where like Hawks players were cheering and reacting. Yeah. That and you know the other funny thing too was the neighborhood that they show. Yeah. Like, listen, to be fair,
NBA Lane.
Yeah, maybe the old school guys who didn't make a lot of money are living in a neighborhood where you can see your neighbor's door.
Not these new dudes.
Oh no. They might have a guest house nearby. And I'm glad. Like when you are the best in the world at something, you deserve a ton of money. Yeah. And that part made me laugh a little bit. But it is a fraternity, as you've said already. It is I've told you before, in my office right behind me there, I only have one picture of players in my entire office that isn't my son. And it's of Magic and Bird. I bought it in Sausalito, a little art store in Sausalito.
Love Sausalito.
Yeah, great little town. My favorite menswear store is there. And then this great art store. And they just Bird and Magic represent to me what saved the league, which was it's all about we. And and they were fierce rivals. I've read every book on the subject and seen every documentary on the subject. And their friendship, I don't think they're amazing human beings. They're quality people in many respects. Bird's got some real skeletons in his closet. As a dad who won't even kind of own up to his first daughter, but which is pretty sickening. But I mean, they played the right way, and I love their friendship. And I really love how Bird reacted when Magic got sick with HIV. That was really because he's a human being after all, and he's not always a great human being, but. Yeah, I could you probably didn't notice, Jarod, but I had not seen that.
Oh, well, you got to watch the whole thing, the whole 248.
I can't wait. This is my life. This is my childhood. I love those guys. Like I've seen a lot of tape on the Big O. And I go back, I can name a lot. Like when you talk about Henry, like I remember Jerome Kersey. Almost nobody else does.
I remember Jerome Kersey.
Yeah, you're old enough, right? He wasn't good enough to be known if you're 25 years old now. Right. But I hated him because I was a Laker fan. He was a big, powerful motherfucker. Yeah, I'm sure Henry knows him. But yeah, I love. That's my old. Yeah, home, you know?
It's wonderful to see those guys. And just one final point to wrap it here on Kareem, who again, you and I agree is the captain of that team of all these teams. It'll happen probably in the next few years if he continues to play. That LeBron James will pass Kareem on the all-time scoring list. But wow. What a run for that record to hold that up. And then for LeBron to come along and break it, at this time. It's, and again, stat compiling, it's like, but these aren't stat compilers, right? These are stat compilers in the sense of, but the way we compile stats wins championships. That's what we do, right? And it's amazing to see what those guys have done in their career. When you just look at, remember Kareem was killing the league in blocks before they were even counting blocks as a stat. Right. So who knows when you go back to look it up, how many blocks would you actually have if we counted them?
I hope that Kareem's alive when LeBron breaks his record because you're going to see a graceful man.
Of course.
he will be so proud.
He's rooting for it. He's rooting for it.
There's no question. He wants to be alive. And I think of that. And then I don't follow the NFL much anymore, but every year when the Dolphins players all get together and have champagne.
Because no one beats that record.
I mean, it's just all for show. I get it. But no one's taking away what you did. The fact that someone else did it.
Right.
I don't like when they do that. I know Kareem would be very, very happy. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, time doesn't stop. There's going to be a day where LeBron does his tour.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to do the rocking chair tour.
I remember that as a kid. You'd show up to Rita's and put the rocking chair out. I'm like, oh, Kareem, they're taking you out to pasture, my man.
He was in the rocking chair in the video. Like, I think that wasn't by accident. Yeah, he was in the rocking chair.
Teaching Dirk how to do the sky hook. Oh, he's like, come on, you got to off the fingertips, my man. Like
Dirk made your team, didn't he?
Yes, Dirk made it.
Yeah, he's got to be the best Euro pro. I don't think you put Powell in there, though.
No, I didn't put Powell, and that was tough because Powell, of course, officially retired this week. That was announced. Powell was tough. Again, when you're doing these lists, man, it's like I don't want to let everybody in, but there's so many people you want to let in. But it's like, hey, when you have only 25 slots available, you got to start being selective. It's like, all right, well, I got to kick somebody out for something, and those things are tough. Getting back to present day, Coach, the latest on Kyrie Irving and the Nets. So I'll give everyone sort of an update here. So the Nets got back from California. So they had training camp in San Diego, played the Lakers on Sunday, got back from LA late Sunday night, early Monday morning. And they had practice here in Brooklyn all week. Kyrie, of course, has not been in practice because he's not vaccinated. They have their first home preseason game tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. He will not be in for obvious reasons, because again, he can't show up to the arena because he's not vaccinated and play any home games per the New York City mandate. And, we talked about this in our chat. We texted about it. This is ultimately what it comes down to. Of the three guys, Kevin Durant's the only one who signed on long-term, right? He signed his extension. So he's there for the long-term. He's also the team's best player. So for all intents and purposes, this is his franchise. Kevin, as a person and the way in which he interacts, he is not a get in your face confrontational kind of dude. That's not his thing. Okay. The Sean Marks and all the players are saying it to a man that we hear the noise. I mean, it's out there in the Twitterverse, as Sean Marks calls it. But in our locker room, no one's talking about it. That's not what we're doing. We're moving on with the season. And I believe all those two things to be true. However, you are trying to win a championship. And the point and the goal is you need all the ships sailing in the right direction, as we talked about last week. Kyrie not being there is a distraction. Him being a part-time player, which I can't even imagine how that works. So you don't show up to the facility and all that to go on the plane with us. So you're going to fly in on your own and meet us in Detroit for a Tuesday evening game? Like, what? And you haven't practiced with us all week? Like, how's that going to work? I can't see how that's going to come off. I still maintain that it'll be a 25th hour sort of convergence. And he's like, all right, I got to do this to be with my guys. But until Durant decides, all right, I'm done with this. No more. And I'm not answering any more questions about this. Like, because the media, we're not going to stop asking until it's resolved, right? One way or the other. Either Kyrie shows up and plays, or they do something drastic and say, we're moving him, whatever it may be. And until Durant gets to that point and the other players, and they go to the ownership and Joe Tsai and says, look, enough's enough. We got to move forward. This is going to hang over their heads. And I can't imagine if you were trying to win a championship that you need, because you're going to have other things happen in this season are going to happen. This is something you can control. So that's where I stand on it. Where are you?
Well, so I've written before at TrueHoop the idea of rowing up, rowing down the river, and the best franchises have a river that's already flowing fast. And then if you really row all of the same, you're synchronized up, you'll go even faster and faster. And so a player that's injured, but it's still a positive force on the team and the culture, it just means his oar is not in the water, but the water's still flowing and everyone's rowing the same speed, the same tempo, all of that, and you're moving. But Kyrie, by taking the approach he's taken, his oar's in the water and it's going the wrong way. So that's going to steer, right? Think about it. You put your oar in at a different place and then go and push against it, it's going to rock the boat a little bit. That's a problem. and they don't need him, Kyrie, to be quite frankly. They give themselves better chances to win when he's on the court, for sure. But the Nets roster is good enough to compete for a championship. I don't know that I would call them favorites. I wouldn't. I would call them favorites to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals as it stands today, with the knowing that Philly's got a deal in place and Miami might be a great postseason team. I think that'd be about the only ones I'd look at. But the Nets will be right there. With Kyrie, they'd be, I think most people think they're favorites. I still have them pretty much neck and neck with the Bucks. So, you know, your point on Kevin Durant, of course, is right. But I still look at the player first, just like I do with Ben Simmons. The Sixers are not blameless with what has happened with you. But this is your life, your career. If I'm a dad, I let my children complain about their history teacher, their science teacher, their roommate, whatever. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? What can you control? I give this speech all the time, to parents, to players, and to my children. What are you in control of, and what can you do about it? End of story. The other stuff is just distraction, ultimately, in many cases, not always. And so with Kyrie, you said it off air, Jarod, so perfectly to me about Wiggins. Steve Kerr acknowledged that Wiggins got the vaccine, and I'm done talking about this. Wiggins came out, acknowledged he got the vaccine, and he is done talking about it. And no one gives a fuck anymore. It's over. Now he can just be a basketball player and have a lot of fun and spend his money and save his money and be a great teammate, all those great things. I want Kyrie just to be able to do that. This is the best team maybe you've ever been on, because he was also a Cleveland team. Let's be fair. Mm-hmm. That team with LeBron and Kevin Love in his prime, really fucking good team. This is right there, because you got Durant taking LeBron's place, and you got James Harden, older James Harden, but still. And Steve Nash looks like a really fun coach to play for. Like Kyrie, life gets so hard as you age. It only gets harder. It never gets easier. Our bodies fail us and all of that. Dude, just enjoy this year and stop making this a mess. It doesn't have to be. That's he could change it, and we would never talk about it again in one day.
And that you hit the nail on the head. You come out and you just show up and you're vaxxed and whatever, and you're like, I did it. Guess what? It's over now. We're finished. Because again, there will be other things that come up in a season, whatever it may be, injuries, whatever. You don't, again, this is something that y'all can control. It's in your control to not make this an issue. So let's not make it one. Judy pulled the article up before that Kareem wrote for Jacobin magazine, where he, and Kareem's been at the forefront chastising LeBron and Kyrie and all these guys about their vaccine refusal. And, Kareem is dead on. And it's the idea of, this idea of personal choice. Friends, it's not personal. It affects everybody, and particularly this. So not only do you have the public health concern, Kyrie, about not being vaccinated and what you can do that way, you're also, your personal choice, quote unquote, is also affecting your team and your brothers, right? Again, I keep going back to the NBA brotherhood. You're not doing your immediate team and brotherhood any favors right now, because while you're not there, they get to have to answer questions about you. And it's like, why am I doing it? And again, players, because they're tight, they do all the same thing. We support Kyrie, it's his decision. But again, it's going to get to a point where they're going to get tired of answering these questions, particularly if for some reason they get into a little rut and they lose 2 or 3 in a row, right? It's going to be, do you guys think if Kyrie was here? And it's going to start, right? And it's just, again, y'all can fix this. Just Kyrie, get the shot over, move on.
Yeah, this is where, so leadership, I define leadership as breathing spirit in the hearts and minds of others. Kyrie's in desperate need of some guidance, some leadership. And I don't care who does it. I'd love for Steve Nash to do it. I'd love for Kevin Durant to do it, or James Harden. It doesn't really matter at this point. His own team has to speak up and say, Kyrie, by getting the vaccine, of course it means you can play and all these other things, but it also means you're way less likely to transfer something to me who's vaccinated, who might give it to my 4-year-old who can't get the vaccine yet. Mm-hmm. That's why it's a public health issue and not a personal choice. It's a personal choice to get high. It's a personal choice to like country music. Like, these are all personal choices that don't affect us one bit. Mm-hmm. But if you drive in a car, listen to country music, I'm going to make sure my windows go up, but I'm not in damage. But if you drive in a car high or drunk, okay, now you potentially could be affecting me. This isn't rocket science. And Kareem might have been smart to be a rocket scientist, don't get me wrong, if he wasn't a 7'2", But his article I thought was brilliant. I posted on Facebook yesterday. It's a brilliant article and just so matter of fact. He's such a beautiful writer.
He is.
So matter of factly stating why this is about us and not just about you. It shouldn't be hard to figure out.
As a team, you know that, right, Coach? Like it's the we. That's how we win a title, not me, right? Like, and we all got to be going together. So we'll see where this ends up. Brooklyn opens the regular season on the road at Milwaukee. And that's on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But then they have 2 nights off or 3 nights off, and they play Philly on the road again before they come home. So, it'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out.
And those teams' players are going to be happily saying to anyone that asks them, hey, it's a personal choice. He's free to do what he wants, because they don't want to see that cat in uniform.
Exactly.
And so to me, that's when I probably should be reconsidering this when people who I know don't really care about my best interest as it affects to their games and winning is saying the things that they support me. They support you for a reason.
Correct. Let's move to Ben Simmons. Judy, play that Shams video about the latest on Ben Simmons, please.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
I'm Shams Charania here with breaking news presented by AT&T 5G. The 76ers continue to hope that Ben Simmons reports to the team and rejoins the roster as soon as possible. As one source told me, it's a waiting game. The 76ers front office, Doc Rivers, and agent Rich Paul have remained in dialogue about finding a way for Simmons to report back to Philadelphia, I'm told. But so far, Simmons has been resistant. And the real question remains, do the 76ers really want a disgruntled star on their roster, which would create a toxic environment and energy around the organization? Simmons clearly appears done with the 76ers organization, as well as the city of Philadelphia. Sources tell me that Simmons has emptied his home in Philadelphia, has had his belongings all packed and moved out, and the place will soon go up for sale, as his mentality is that a trade is coming at some point. It's been clear
you can stop it there, Judy. This is a high stakes game of chicken, right? Daryl Morey wants what he wants in return for Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons is apparently being strident in his desire to not rejoin the team. I'll say this, till we talk about leadership and spirit and what a locker room's like and all the oars going in the right direction. If he somehow shows up to the beginning of the season, those oars ain't all going the same speed in the same direction. He's going to be disgruntled. That's going to bring an attitude of inconsistency and discontentment around the locker room. The Philadelphia media is going to ask him about it every single night, and it's possible to have Ben back and all that stuff. And that atmosphere can't be good, right? You mentioned something to us off air, Coach, about players in conflict. Can you talk about what you're talking about there as it relates to if Ben would show up in that locker room?
Yeah, Jarod, that's a scenario I literally can't envision happening. I don't see. I mean, Shams says that he's selling his house and all that. A study of Ben Simmons, his personality, would suggest that there's no way this guy's ever going back to play in Philly as a Sixer. If he did, I think they could probably work through almost anything. That doesn't mean there wouldn't be some underlying concern, but Ben's not doing that. That's not who he is. It never has been. He would have to have a major personality change, and he'd have to be contrite. He would have to say, you know what, I'm better served coming back until Daryl knows I want to be traded, but I'm going to play my ass off, root for my team. If they don't want to play me, that's fine. It's not happening. It's not happening. And I think that the Sixers would love to have him back before they trade him. He knows that. They try to trade him. They're not going to be great without him. They're going to be good. I think they're going to be good. They played really well last night, but the Raptors are a shell of their team without their starting and backup center and their best player, Pascal Siakam. It's a drama that I don't think is going to end anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to get a heads up when it does. We're dealing with the agent could leak it. The team that's going to get him could leak it. Daryl won't. Yeah. He'll tell Woj when he's ready. And that'll be already done. He's not going to keep him updated with anything. It's going to be something we have to watch for, because the Sixers have one of the best players in the world in Joel Embiid, who didn't make our list.
Yeah, not yet.
Right,
Yeah.
Right. 5 years, he's going to be on there.
Yeah.
80 for 80. He's going to be on there probably.
Yeah.
He's incredible, just incredible. And without Ben, it's just hard. They got to replace the passing, the defense, the transition.
It's a lot to ask to replace. It's a lot.
And a 6'10" dude.
Yeah.
He's the second best defender on the planet behind Rudy. And he's one of the best passers. He makes the game super easy for everyone, all in one person. So to replace that in the aggregate is very, very hard to do. In fact, I would argue impossible. If they trade him, they'll pivot and play differently. And so now the question really becomes, if Beal wants to go, he could go already. If Lillard wants to go, he can go already. That may change.
Right.
Jarod wants to wait for them, but I don't know how long. Henry said this. How long is the owner going to wait?
Yes, that's the key. How long does Josh Harris want to deal with this?
I think so. I think when Josh says they'll get a deal done, then he's going to have to do a Pacers deal, a Kings deal. I try to play with the Spurs.
Minnesota deal, maybe. Yeah.
Minnesota, everyone says that. I don't see it because the fit is great with Cat because you want to put them with a shooting 5. In fact, he's best with a shooting 5 that isn't also a scoring inside 5. Cat can score inside too. He's best with where your 5 isn't your best player or second best player. He's just a space guy and then a defensive guy. The Spurs, to me, there's some interesting things there with the guards that they have and their young players and a potential lottery pick for next year. But it's going to be when Josh says, all right, I'm sick of losing the amount of games we're losing. I'm not going to lose every game. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I think Daryl's going to have some deals ready to go once, just like an athletic director in college. These guys have to have a list in their pocket or in their phone now. I've been saying this since before they had cell phones. You used to have a list you carried with you in your wallet where if I lose my volleyball coach, my track coach, my baseball coach, whatever, I know who I'm calling right away. And you got to have that if you're Daryl. You got to have some trades you can go to if the owner says get something done in 48 hours.
For sure. I agree. Yeah. So this situation is it bears monitoring. Let's fly through a couple of things here before we finish up with your great article about the preseason. So Seth Curry was on the Athletic podcast with Marcus Thompson and David Aldridge, and they wrote up some stuff about it, really about the conflict within Steph Curry, right? The raging confidence and the quiet insecurity. What about that stuck out to you, Coach?
Oh, there's a couple of things. He talked about how he wants to crush you the way Kobe, the way all competitors are. He just does it smiling. And it's a lesson I learned when I first started helping Corey Brewer, who loves to smile, but is super competitive. And it was good for me to learn that lesson, that you don't have to look like you're shooting lasers out of your eyes to want to win desperately. And I will tell you, as a dad, I didn't raise our children to compete that way. I don't know that I was wrong. I don't know that I was right. Everyone's built differently. I'm not even sure I could have managed to do it. And I don't know if you can coach that. I really don't. You can coach, play harder, care more, all of that. But this is a cut row motherfucker. He, by his own admission, he just does it as sweet looking, personable. Mom and dad, I guess they're getting divorced now, but they were happily married growing up. Dad was an NBA player. Like, he doesn't look that part. He wasn't, going between Bloods and Crips like Pat Bev in Chicago, whatever the gangs are there. But he's every bit the killer. So that really stood out to me. I've known that about him, but I liked reading about it too. I like that he acknowledges it. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's great piece by Marcus and David. You guys check it out, listen to that podcast. I mean, Steph, of course, made our list. One of the great competitors and just players this league's ever seen, and really changed the geometry of the floor.
And one thing too, Judy, under the Imagine Kyrie, I have a little thing that says TampaBay.com. I want to address this, Jarod, as it relates to Steph Curry and Kyrie. There's a player that is not activated for the Rays in the division series right now, named Brett Phillips. Brett, there's a picture of him there. Brett went to my high school. So this is a guy that won a national championship in high school. I remember I didn't go to the games, but I was in a movie theater and there was a buzz in our theater. We have a pretty big city here. Someone had announced that Seminole, which is 40 minutes away from where I live, but it's where I grew up, won the state championship and was going to be named national champion. And that guy was one of the best players on the team. He didn't go to college. He went right to Major League Baseball and obviously played his way through. The guy had 3 grand slams in a couple weeks. And then he had an inside the park home run too. Like the last guy to do that was Babe Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
This is an incredible player, and he gets deactivated because he's a lefty. And I guess the Red Sox have a bunch of lefty pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of, he's making $500,000 this year. He's a young player. But he's making $500,000. And this guy is capable of doing incredible things. He did that this year, those grand slams. He's the most energetic guy. And so instead, he's like coaching this week. And every time he hit a home run, he's the first guy out of the dugout. He plays with so much joy. He reminds me of Steph that way. Steph celebrates, so does Scotty Barnes, no matter who does well. And this guy, for $500,000, if he has a great playoff series, he could make $20 million next year. He's not going to get that chance in this series. He'll probably be activated for the next one. That's why we're supposed to be playing. And I want Kyrie to recognize that Steph could do what you're doing, Kyrie, and not get the vaccine. Although he has kids. I don't know if Kyrie has kids.
Kyrie does have kids.
He does. So that's interesting. As I've talked to some cardiologists for children, pediatric cardiologists, like this disease is no joke for any child, potentially. I think we're losing 4 in 100 that are hospitalized.
Yeah.
If you're a kid, it's a lot. Nobody would do anything if there was a 4% chance you might die. Nobody would drive a car, Jarod, if there was a 4% chance you would die.
Correct.
No one would jump out of airplanes as a tourist if 4 of 100 would die. Like that's a very serious number. So I wish Kyrie would allow the Brett Phillips and the Currys of the world. You can be as cutthroat as Steph Curry and still be delightful. You can do both and not have to just have the weight of the world on your shoulders all the time. But anyway, that's we can move on to
well said.
Trevor.
I was gonna say, your thing with the Lakers all year, coach, has been this is a bunch of old guys, and sure enough, Ariza had foot surgery, I believe, and he's gonna be out. He's gonna miss the first month or 2 of the season. What are your thoughts on the Lakers and their old dudes?
Yeah, here we go. It's not a strategy to have a bunch of old guys and think, we're gonna be fine. Like that's just not a strategy. You can hope for that. You can be a praying person. But to think that this is the last injury they're going to have is silly. I wrote it in my preseason piece we'll get to. I wrote about how good Anthony Davis looks from a physical standpoint. However, it comes with attacks. He looks big, strong, on a frame that is built for someone skinny. And so I'm a little worried about his lower body. I have a natural worry about that, always have. Henry will tell you that. Big, strong guys who used to be super skinny worry me for different reasons. So, this won't be the last guy to get hurt probably. It's why I think, and I wrote about this, it's why Horton Tucker, Malik Monk, and who's the third one? I wrote about it. The third young guy. Monk, come on.
Monk, Horton Tucker. Who's the third guy? Who's the third young guy on the Lakers?
I'm embarrassed. It's in my
piece. It's in the thing. You guys can look it up, but they're going to have to rely on those guys, right? And to play integral parts, really, because it's about managing the regular season so that those guys, Kendrick Nunn, yes, correct. Thanks, David. So that those guys are ready come, because the games that matter to the Lakers are the 16 you need to win a championship. Right. Those are the ones they care about. These 82, whatever. Those dudes got to be ready for the 16. And,
So you play the young guys more, and because they are so deep, including with young guys, the young guys will have legs in the postseason. Like I think Nunn will be valuable. Malik Monk, we don't know yet. He's never done anything. Nunn at least has made it to the finals before. He was injured. When he came back, he was actually pretty good in the NBA finals in the bubble. We'll see. And Horton Tucker is young, very athletic dude. Athletes make plays against tired people.
Sure do.
I like that. I think the Lakers did a good job of balancing old guys with some young guys, but they just had too many old guys. I never expected Ariza for anything anyway. I didn't expect injury. I expected nothingness from him. I don't know why they have him, and now they don't.
And the other thing is, it's a roster spot, right? And now it's like, okay, it's a roster spot that's clogged up right now that I can't use. True. So that's the other thing about when you're doing that. All right, let's wrap here, Coach. You wrote something nice about, well, not nice. You wrote something about every single team you saw this postseason, or this preseason, excuse me. What are you liking that you're seeing from these teams? Which teams are standing out that you're like, all right, I'm liking what I'm seeing here?
Well, Jarod, I wrote it all. People, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but we have 5 minutes. What are some things you've seen? We haven't talked. So you've been watching most preseason games. I know you watched your boy for the Grizzlies last night. But what else? Of course. What else? Like, have you seen Kate Cunningham didn't play? Have you seen some of the rookies? Have you seen Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr. for
love Jalen Green? Yeah, man. Look, I like what I'm seeing from the young guys. I saw a little bit of my guy from Cleveland. Oh God, went Evan Mobley. Yes. Cleveland's going to be interesting because I'm still not sure that they're going to be good. Right. And, a team full of young guys, and I'm still not quite sure of the fit, but I'm excited to see how it looks. And the Kevin Love thing, what's going on there? Is he going to be helpful or not? They're going to move him. I don't know what's happening there.
That's a real mystery. I am sure that they're not going to be good. I could be wrong, but I typically am not when I'm this sure.
Yeah.
But I think they're interesting. You're right. Sexton wants an extension.
Yep.
He's a very talented scorer, but probably doesn't deserve a lot of money. He's a liability on defense and not even sure of the fit. But they need to make sure they have him. Garland is a pretty good player. We'll see how much he grows. Okoro is an interesting small forward. He's a lottery pick, the top 5 picks. And Mobley, to me, is the real deal. Mobley is, I nicknamed him on a tweet, Mr. Fantastic. Named for the Fantastic Four guy. Because when he dribbles downhill, he's all over the place, super fluid, but can maneuver around people and super long. He stretches out so long. He should be he was my number 1 player in the draft.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
I just don't trust the Cavaliers to develop him. We'll see. I'm rooting for him.
That's the thing. That's the thing right there. I agree. I don't trust Cleveland either. I love what I'm seeing out of Cam Reddish in Atlanta and DeAndre Hunter, both coming off injuries. Look, they have a crowded squad over there. And don't be surprised that Atlanta playing well and doing their thing, if they say, you know what? If we can package Reddish or one of the right and get a dude now all of a sudden Atlanta goes from, hey, we're a 4 seed to, if Kyrie's fooling around in Brooklyn and we don't know what's going on, we can move ourselves up into that top 3. Because Atlanta's the kind of team that I think that they know that everyone's like, last year was fool's gold. And they're like, nah, no fool's gold here. We believe in ourselves. Trey's got that chip. Nate's going to have them playing well. I like what I've seen preseason out of Atlanta.
I don't know that I haven't said this already once before, but I know a lot of basketball people who know a lot of basketball people. And I know a basketball person that spoke to someone directly connected to another basketball person. And I'm being a little facetious.
Of course.
More direct than that. That has Beal going, that he wants to go to Atlanta.
Could you imagine Trey and Bradley? And I like it.
I don't think it's his only destination, but nothing. I'm not reporting that. Who wouldn't want to go play with Trae Young and their guys? Now they're going to have to offer Reddish and Hunter. And man, the Wizards are getting a monopoly on talented small forwards that can play the 4. With Benny Avdia, they had Rui Hachimura. They've already got a bunch. So these are lottery picks too. But Hunter and Reddish are really talented players.
I think if I'm Atlanta though, Reddish, okay, I'll talk. Yeah, I'm not including Hunter in the deal.
I'd rather not because there's your defensive force.
You hit. There you go. I need Kevin defense. Durant. Yes, I'm not getting rid of Hunter. No. But yeah,
I spoke to a player yesterday on a contending team, and said at some point you're going to have to get by Kevin Durant, and so you got to be able to guard Kevin Durant on your team. In my opinion, I told him this. Every team in the East is saying that. And so to your point on DeAndre Hunter, the Hawks have got to, they can't just be thinking, ooh, Bradley Beal,
right,
and not be thinking, well, who's guarding Kevin Durant?
There you go. There you go.
And Giannis, different argument with Giannis. Kevin Durant is inside-outside more. But those two guys are in the East. So you better think hard about getting rid of DeAndre Hunter.
Yep.
If you can get Bradley Beal, because it's not going to matter if you can't get by Kevin Durant.
Well, that you hit the nail on the head, Coach. That's there. And I think to your point, as we wrap here, the thing about Brooklyn, I'll also say about their depth is way better than it was last year. I think Cam Thomas is a great steal for them where they got him at 20, whatever. Yeah. This dude can score, man. Now he's got defensive issues, of course. But look, if Kyrie ain't going to be playing, Cam Thomas is going to see a lot of minutes, and he stays after practice every day working with Durant and Harden. I'm like, wow, if you got any more better teachers on how to score the ball than those two, I don't know.
Right. Hey, real quick, we're launching a show next week on Tuesday. We'll have a show Monday with Henry and then you. We're doing on Tuesday at noon next week on Fireside for Mark Cuban's new company on Fireside Chat. Well, I'm going to be doing hopefully a series on just using sports to help you raise your kids into being better people and building a bridge in their hearts and building a bridge into their dreams and all of that. I've got a pretty extensive curriculum and lots of experience on it, of course, and I've watched great parents for years. And so hopefully all my TrueHoop family will join us live next Tuesday. We'll talk about it again on Monday, and I'll be tweeting it out after I get back from Parents Weekend at UCF.
Enjoy Parents Weekend, Coach. Guys, tune in next week, Tuesday at noon for Coach's show. And until next time, guys, thank you, Judy. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Safe.